I wish to speak to you as a scientist, and I will focus on the science. A lot of people talk about science, but not all of them are scientists, and many of the scientists who speak to you are not scientists in the area that they are supposed to be speaking about. I mean, you hear people, physicists, for example, will say that there can be no biological effects for non-thermal radiation. Well, the fact of the matter is they have not read the literature. I think one of the things you will walk away with after my talk is that there is evidence. You may not be able to evaluate it, but I'm telling you that this is evidence that's been published, it's been replicated, and it's been judged by scientists who are capable of judging it, that the electromagnetic fields of a variety of frequencies can cause biological effects, important biological effects, including damage to some fundamental molecules. And furthermore, that we have a fair idea of what the mechanism is. In other words, that there are ways in which we can understand how this can come about. And part of the answer to that mechanism comes from the evidence of the biological molecules themselves. Because if you know the right language, the cells can tell you what they are doing. In other words, we can act as translators of the biology to tell you what the cell is trying to do. And that's the thing that we have been able to do. All of this evidence points out to the fact that what the standards that we have today are totally inadequate. And that as any reasonable person, and this is something where I'm taking off my cap as a scientist and putting on my general cap as a citizen, and that is that when you come across situations where you find that there is a potential danger, you try and avoid it. You try and avoid it before it becomes a real danger. This is known as the precautionary principle, and there's every reason to invoke that principle and to apply it in this case. One of the molecules that is made by the DNA is an indication of stress. I put this down, that the cellular stress response. We all know that when an organism gets into trouble, there are special secretions. We know about adrenaline, we know about cortisol. These are things that are secreted by the body to mobilize so that you can run and that you can fight and you get your energy mobilized. That's true on an organismic level. But each cell has its own defense mechanism, and this is known as the cellular stress response. This is something that when a cell comes in contact with an unfriendly environment. An unfriendly environment is something where the temperature is raised, where the pH, the acidity changes, and it's something that's going to endanger it. In other words, a condition that's not good for the cell to survive. It comes apart, the DNA in certain regions comes apart and starts to read the code to make stress proteins. Stress proteins there are about 20 of them in nature, and these are the ones that are used by the cell to counteract the bad effects of whatever the stimulus is in the environment that set it off. So that the stress protein is an indication by the cell in its own language that it has come in contact with something that is bad for it, that is potentially harmful. And what it's telling us is that when we know that the cell reacts to EMF in the environment, it is telling you that the cell feels it is potentially harmful. The cell has told us, you can do the experiment yourself, it will make stress proteins, and it only makes the stress proteins when it is in a potentially harmful environment, and it makes it with EMF. We have found that it makes it with EMF in the ELF in the lowest frequency range. It makes it in radio frequency range. We know it makes it pretty much over the entire span. Probably the most important part is the public education campaign. That is, people must be made aware of this issue. They must realize that even though they cannot see it or feel it, it's having its effect, and that these effects are cumulative, many are slow acting, and that you really can't beat it. Thank you.
Hello friends, Neil here, EMF Safety Zone. I'm going to attempt to show you what most of us are exposing ourselves to on a daily basis at our computer workstations. All right, this is my desk where I work. And I purposely turned my modem here, my AT&T UVerse modem, with the wireless function on. And so here's an acoustometer, radio frequency meter. But notice that this modem is innocently sitting here, apparently doing nothing. However, when we turn on the radio frequency meter, it is measuring the transmission of the wireless coming out of this modem. And you can see that the peak signal strength on the left column of this meter is at almost 6 volts per meter. That's as high as it goes. And on the right-hand side, the microwatts per square meter in terms of average is sometimes peaking up at 10,000. These are extremely dangerous readings of radio frequency radiation going through my body. And most of us have our modems sitting like this at our desk, or maybe at the floor somewhere near us. Now I'm going to show you this. I'm going to turn the volume up. I'm going to walk around the house. And now I'm out of my office. I'm walking into the living room. I'm going to show you the office is back in that direction through those doors. And although the reading is down a little bit on the meter, you can still see that the whole house is more or less being influenced by this radio frequency transmission, because I don't have a cordless phone in this house. I'm going to walk into the bedroom. All right, this is where I sleep. And look at the meter. If I leave that wireless on all night, the meter is still registering roughly 0.30 volts per meter and about 1 to 5 microwatts per square meter. Those are not high readings, but it's still going to disturb melatonin levels. It's still going to disturb my sleep. And you can hear, let me turn the volume up. You can hear the dit-dit-dit-dit-dit, which is the frequency transmission from the wireless modem. And as we head back into the office here, you can see the readings picking up immediately. See that? And we're wondering why we're dizzy, nauseous, we have headaches, we have fatigue. This is what we're exposing ourselves to, sitting here working on the computer with a wireless modem. All right, now as you can see here, what I've done is I've plugged my Ethernet cord, I've hardwired the modem. All right, now please, this is very, very important to understand. You can think, okay, well, I've plugged my, my blue or my yellow Ethernet cord or my gray Ethernet cord, whatever color you might have. I've plugged it into the modem. And I've plugged the other side of it right here into the computer. All right, so now I'm hardwired. Everything's okay. Let me turn on the acoustometer, the radio frequency meter. I'm trying to do this left-handed, and I'm not left-handed. Well, look at this. What's that all about? The readings are still coming off the modem. Let me show you something very important here. This is the AT&T website where I need to go to actually disable the modem. So I go up here, I turn it off, I save it, and now look what happens to the acoustometer. It's still on, have the volume all the way up, and there's no reading. See, now the wireless modem is disabled. Now I'm being free of being exposed to dangerous radio frequency radiation. And this is very important to understand. If I want the wireless function on the modem, I just go back here and I enable the wireless operation and I save it, and the wireless will go back on. So please don't think that with your modem, just because you have an Ethernet cord plugged into it, that the wireless function is disabled. It's very important to disable the wireless function through the software, or you need to call your internet service provider and ask them how to do it. However, once again, as you can see, there's no reading on the acoustometer from the modem. Let me see if I can do this left-handed. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to enable the wireless. I'm going to save it. And look at that. Even though I have an Ethernet cable plugged into it, Ethernet cord, the radio frequency meter is showing extremely dangerous levels of RF radiation coming out of the modem. So to make a long story short, plug your wireless modem into an Ethernet cord, plug the Ethernet cord into your computer, and make sure that you call your internet service provider, or maybe you know how to do it, and disable the wireless function on the modem. This will really help your health in a large way. It'll help your sleep. I can't emphasize this enough. All right, thank you.